Right, I've got that off my chest. Let's speak now to Emma Best, who is the Conservative Deputy Leader in the London Assembly. Emma, I mean, look, I cannot fathom how he has the audacity to sit there in mayoral question time and respond to what is an extremely serious and valid line of questioning from your leader on this most sensitive and important of subjects. I'm horrified. What did you make of all of that?
Yeah, good afternoon, Alex. And you speak not only for the whole of London, but the UK. That's the disgust that we all feel. Because what you've seen from the Casey report, what you've seen from reports over the weekend is exactly what we feared. When you look at and hear those testimonials from those poor girls across the country, and you look at the elements to how those cases were allowed to rear their head, you could only see that we were likely to have issues like that in London. We had failing authorities. We had a Met Police service that was scared to be called racist. We had the profile of those victims across the capital. We knew we were likely to have it. It's such a serious issue. I wouldn't begin to speculate as to why the mayor thought it was acceptable to respond in that way. All I can say, it was absolutely unacceptable. This is a really serious case. These are people's lives, not just past victims. We probably have current victims as well. That's why in February we had a fully costed inquiry that we put into the budget. Labour voted against that then. Luckily, they have U-turned nationally. But this is, look, in City Hall Conservatives, the first report we did on this was 10 years ago. That's how long we have been saying there is likely to be an issue of this scale in London.
And there is, and what we know is the way that the Metropolitan Police and local authorities in London have been recording statistics on child abuse is out of sync with other parts of the country. So we know that there are failings. We know that there must be cases slipping through the cracks as a result of this inconsistency. And we know that the buck stops with Sadiq Khan because he, as the Mayor of London, is in lieu of a police and crime commissioner. I think the man should resign.
Well, I think on this and many other reasons, it's been clear that he is not fit to be the Mayor of London, and I would certainly be calling for his resignation. But I just hope that Londoners see this, and I hope they see that it's not just political differences they have. He has a disdain, I think, for Londoners, and the way in which he conducts himself is not. He is not fit to be the Mayor of our capital, and I think this incident. When you see that perfectly reasonable line of questioning from our leader, Assembly Member Hall, I don't know how you could be more reasonable about what is a topic that is going to rightfully make people angry. I don't know how you could be more reasonable and to get that response. I hope people see this, and I hope people will remember it. And I do not hope that he gets the privilege to run over our city for much longer after this. But in the meantime, he needs to do something about what actually is the problem around the victims that we likely have across the capital.
Well, I mean, I don't quite know what, only he can know in his own head what he was trying to do there, but I got the impression he's saying, oh, try and define what you're talking about. I don't understand. You'll have to spell it out more clearly. I get the feeling he was basically trying to play the race card and portray her as some sort of xenophobe or Islamophobe, which is a disgusting way of trying to gaslight someone into not pursuing what is the most important of subjects. What is being done in London now? Has there been any change? What can we hope for in terms of unearthing and uncovering what could be going on in our capital city and starting to put things right?
Well, firstly, we do hope this national inquiry is going to look in detail at London. We've seen from the Casey report the problems laid bare, and as you said there, we've seen the issue with the data. So the data basically shows us between local authorities and the Met Police, it is undeniable that children are being lost in the system. So we really need to push on that now and make the Mayor look into that as soon as possible while we wait for the national inquiry to go through. It was really upsetting that in February we could have began work on this. Like I said, the City Hall Conservatives put forward a plan to make sure that we were beginning to look into that now, and Labour rejected it. I do hope now they do more after the national government have U-turned. But just to come back to that questioning from Susan Hall, as I said, I couldn't tell you why he thought it was okay to behave in that way. But what I do know is this is the most serious of crimes, and he was playing a game of some sort. Only he could tell you what the game was. But he was playing a game of some sort with what is one of the most severe and disgusting crimes that we've seen in this country.
Yeah, I think we all have a hunch of what game he might be playing. I've got a view of his messaging saying Khan didn't answer the grooming scandal question because he was goading her into saying Muslim or Pakistani so he could shut her down as a racist. Sadiq Khan boils my blood, says someone else. How does that childish response around rape gangs, how is it befitting of a Knight of the Realm? The UK should remove the title immediately. Just as you said, this is not an issue that you can play political games over. that this is not an issue where we should ever tolerate somebody using those sort of sly ways of framing somebody as being a xenophobe or an Islamophobe or a racist, because we know that that has been all part of the cover-up, which has enabled these gangs to be able to act for decades now with hundreds of thousands of victims.
Yeah, and I have to say that in the Casey report, she made clear that in 2/3 of cases, ethnicity data hasn't been recorded alongside these crimes. She made clear that authorities had shied away from the issue of race. So now that Dame Casey has said it, hopefully the likes of Sadiq Khan will take it seriously, because it's victims that have paid the price for that. But also, it should be said, it's also minority ethnic communities that are paying the price, because they want this investigated as well. They are saying, don't tarnish everybody with the same brush. Don't let this get pushed under the cover. And they want this investigated just as much as anyone else. And we are doing a disservice by not talking about it, not only to them, but of course the victims.
Yeah, you're right, actually, because we know in Oldham, for example, some of the whistleblowers, when it came to the perpetrators of these sick...
They are harming our daughters. That's the shocking truth staring London in the face. And yet, the very man who is meant to protect our children, the so-called mayor of this capital city, sits in silence, dodging questions, smirking his way through accountability as if nothing is happening. Exploitation in London is not just a concern. Experts describe it as catastrophic. More catastrophic than anywhere else in the country. That's not my phrase. That comes from Chris Wilde, a care sector activist, an abuse survivor, someone who knows the system from the inside. And if you think that sounds dramatic, wait until you hear how Sadiq Khan responded when directly challenged about gangs targeting children in London. Because, let's be clear, reports, investigations, survivor testimonies all point to the same devastating conclusion. London is not immune. Exploitation networks don't magically stop at the borders of Bradford, Rotherham, or Rochdale. They thrive where the system is weak, where authorities look away, where police and local councils mishandle records, mislabel crimes, or worse, pretend not to see what's happening. That's exactly what Baroness Louise Casey warned about when she tore into the failures surrounding abuse across England. And yet somehow London, with all its size, diversity, and complexity, is apparently squeaky clean? Really? Do you believe that? Or is something being hidden in plain sight? Here's where it gets infuriating. Susan Hall, leader of the Conservative group in the London Assembly, asked the mayor a question millions of parents, taxpayers, and ordinary citizens want answered. How many exploitation gangs are there in London? A simple, urgent, straightforward question. But instead of answering, Khan wriggled like a slippery eel. He mumbled about definitions, about not quite understanding the question, about how exploitation in London doesn't fit the same model as in other towns. Excuse me, children being targeted, manipulated, and abused is not about definitions. It's about shattered lives. It's about kids robbed of innocence. And yet, the man who holds the title of Police and Crime Commissioner chose to play word games. Word games while children's safety is at stake. Susan Hall pressed him again and again. Gangs of men targeting young girls, grooming them for abuse, that was the issue. And Khan kept dodging, pretending he didn't quite grasp it. As if the whole country hasn't seen the reports, the documentaries, the testimonies of survivors describing in detail the horror they endured. He knows exactly what's being asked. Everyone does. Yet his response was to brush it off, to belittle the seriousness of the subject. Now, pause for a moment. Imagine if this were any other public figure. Imagine if a head teacher brushed off questions about predators in their school. Imagine if a CEO shrugged off allegations of systematic abuse in their company. Would we not demand resignations, prosecutions, the full force of justice? But here, because it's Sadiq Khan, because it's London's political establishment, we're supposed to accept evasion. We're supposed to stay quiet while our mayor makes excuses instead of giving answers. That clip alone, his disgraceful evasions, should have ended his career. That was the moment he should have been forced to step aside. Yet he remains, still refusing to take responsibility. And here's what makes it worse. It's not just about his words, it's about the message his silence sends. When the most senior political figure in London cannot bring himself to admit the scale of the problem, what hope do victims have that their cases will be taken seriously? What message does that send to predators lurking in our communities? That London is a safe playground for them. That they can carry on knowing the mayor will dance around definitions rather than call them out. It makes my blood boil. And it should make every parent's blood boil too. Because this is not just incompetence, it is betrayal. Let's not forget Khan is not just the mayor. He is also the police and crime commissioner. That means he has direct responsibility for holding the Met Police to account. Yet instead of demanding data, instead of demanding transparency, instead of standing up for victims, he hides behind bureaucratic nonsense. Where are the statistics? Where is the breakdown of cases? Where is the proof that exploitation gangs in London are being confronted head-on? We don't get any of that. What we get is spin, evasion, and a politician more focused on his image than on protecting children. So here's the real question. If exploitation is truly at catastrophic levels, if survivors and campaigners are shouting from the rooftops that the problem is being ignored, if reports keep showing systemic failures, then why does London, the biggest city in the country, have no figures, no records, no clear acknowledgement from its mayor? Is it incompetence, or is it a cover-up? And if the mayor himself cannot, or will not, even say the words, then what horrors are still being hidden beneath the surface?